What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So I realized that I really have not updated my playoff predictions since the start of the season. I had the Colorado Avalanche winning the Stanley Cup, which I still think is possible if they have a good deadline and Gabriel Landeskog comes back, as well as the New Jersey Devils coming out of the East. I think they could be a dangerous team if they make it. I still think they will make it over the Flyers, but that pick isn't looking too good. So I thought that we would kind of revise it and just go off the bracket, what it would be right now, what my updated playoff predictions would be. They might change a little bit after the deadline, but unless a team goes like all in, like one top six forward might not change an entire goddamn matchup. So without further adu, here's the bracket: Jets, Preds, Stars, Avalanche, Canucks, I almost said Kraken, Kings, Oilers, Knights, Rangers, Red Wings, Hurricanes, Flyers, Panthers, Lightning, and then Bruins and Leafs. We got some absolute bangers of matchups. So let's dive into it. I'm going to be breaking down what these matchups. We're going to go the entire first round, all 8 games, second round, conference finals, Stanley Cup finals. Break it down like a minute, 2 minutes on each matchup for the most part. So up first, Rangers versus Red Wings. I'm going to go with the Rangers in 6 games. I think the Red Wings would actually give them a very good series. They play not similar styles of play, but their overall results are pretty similar in the sense that they're not good 5-on-5 teams. The Red Wings are actually 24th in expected goals at 5-on-5. Rangers are at 23rd. So I think this would be kind of a special teams battle. And when looking at it, although the Red Wings special teams have been fantastic, I think I probably would trust the Rangers, who have had fantastic special teams basically the last 2-3 seasons. I think I would trust them come playoff time to perform more. And when looking at it in net, Alex Lyon has been great this year for the Red Wings, but Shesterkin has been fantastic in the playoffs. He has a .930 in his 27 career playoff games. I don't really count the play-ins against Carolina, but he has a .930. He had a .930 2 years ago and then a .929 last year, even with the Devils kind of kicking the shit out of the Rangers in some games. He has been fantastic. I think he's the real difference maker in the series, as long as the Rangers don't get on the penalties, don't commit a ton of penalties, which they really haven't this season. They're about middle of the pack. They're 16th in the entire NHL in amount of penalty minutes. As long as they don't do that and give the Red Wings chances with their elite finishers, I think they take care of them in 6 games. I could see it going 7, though. The Canes versus the Flyers. I got the Canes in 5. They play just such a sound style of hockey that I don't really think that they'd get upset by a talentless team for the most part of the Philadelphia Flyers. Not saying the Philadelphia Flyers are a bad team, but they don't have that high-end talent that can carry you come playoff time. When looking at it, they would probably have 4 out of the 5 best players between Aho, Svechnikov, Burns, Slavin. I would have Travis Konechny in there as well. So they have the talent, as well as they can just absolutely dominate possession. And it's not like the Flyers have this fantastic goalie. Sam Ersson maybe one day will be a fantastic goalie, but it's not like the Flyers have this great equalizer that can absolutely outplay Kochetkov. I think Kochetkov is serviceable. So I think the Carolina Hurricanes would just play their style of hockey, grind out 3-2, 2-1 wins, and get it done pretty easily against the Philadelphia Flyers. Next up, the Panthers versus the Lightning. This is pretty interesting. I think it's kind of a reverse of 2021 when the Lightning were an absolute super team. Panthers were kind of on the come up, had some stars, but kind of lacked some depth. Meanwhile, the Lightning were 3 goddamn lines deep, had one of the best third lines that we remember of recent memory, as well as a fantastic goalie and decor. It's kind of reversed. The Lightning, after their amazing runs, they're really hurting in terms of depth. Their bottom 6, honestly, is one of like the worst in the entire NHL for the most part, as well as losing a guy like Sergachev in the defense core, a top 25, top 30 defenseman in the entire NHL. I just don't think it's their year. I don't think that's that controversial. And Vasilevsky's having the worst regular season of his career, as well as last year being pretty bad in the playoffs. Bobrovsky right now I would probably take Bobrovsky right now over Vasilevsky, considering Bobrovsky last year in the playoffs. I still think Vasilevsky is better overall goalie for the most part, but this season, as well as the fact Florida's defense core is very deep. Ekblad and Forsling is a fantastic pair. Montour, OEL has been great, and their top 2 lines are some of the best in hockey, as well as having some solid depth. So I have the Florida Panthers winning in 6 games in this series. Next up, Leafs versus Bruins. I have the Leafs in 7. I know that might be controversial, but I think the Leafs are a tougher team. I don't think the Bruins can rag them around like maybe the Florida Panthers did last year. And the Leafs are the deeper team, especially when it comes to their forward core. Tavares going down to that third line really gives them 3 solid scoring lines. You compare that to the Boston Bruins, and you're relying on guys like JVR, Jake DeBrusk, who just aren't high-end top sixers to play pretty sizable roles for the Boston Bruins. It's just not really going to work this year. They don't have the center depth, obviously, after losing Bergeron and Krejci. It's kind of a down year for the Boston Bruins. Yes, they would have an advantage in net, but it's not even like Swayman and Ullmark played that good in the playoffs last year. So I would go with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think they exercised their demons in this series. So next up, Jets versus the Nashville Predators. I have the Jets in 5 games. When looking at this, Predators, good story, some great signings, Gustav Nyquist and Ryan O'Reilly, but let's be honest, they're not built for a playoff team. They're kind of only one line in terms of their forward core, as well as beyond Roman Josi not having the best defense core, and UC Saros is having a down year. They're churning out results, but this Winnipeg Jets team is really solid. I know this is kind of unfair because the Winnipeg Jets already made their deadline move in Sean Monahan versus a lot of these teams have not, but when looking at it, they're 3 lines deep, similarly to some other teams we're talking about, as well as the Florida Panthers. They have such fantastic forward depth, as well as their defensemen, their two-way defensemen kind of coming to a rise. They don't really have that much of a weakness any spot on this team, in my opinion. So I think the Jets, as well as having the better goaltender right now, they would take care of business in 5, maybe 6 games. Next up, a great series, Stars versus Avalanche. I'm going to go with the Stars in 7 games. It's kind of a tale of 2 teams. The Avalanche obviously have that amazing top line with McKinnon, Rantanen, and then I think they might put Etrushkin back on that, but if not, Drouin. When looking at it, Dallas, though, has so much more depth in their forward core than the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado Avalanche just couldn't figure out that second-line center position, so now they're running out like Ross Colton as their second-line center and Ryan Johansson as their third-line center. You compare that to goddamn Dallas Stars. They have freaking Rupe Inside, Wyatt Johnston, Matt Duchene. It is absolutely insane the amount of depth that this Dallas team has, and when you consider that McCarr and Taves are having probably their worst year as a pair this season, I don't know how they would be able to slow down that Dallas Stars forward core. When looking at it, their goddamn third lines, Jamie Benn, Wyatt Johnston, and Logan Stankoven. It is absolutely grotesque. And I would take Jake Oettinger, obviously, over Alexander Georgiev. So I think although if the Colorado Avalanche, again, get Landeskog back, they trade for a legit second-line center, this would be an absolutely insane series, and I could see Colorado winning it. But right now I have the Stars in 7 games. I'll keep it at 7 games. 7 games. Next up, we have the Canucks versus the Kings. I'm going to go with the Vancouver Canucks in 6 games in this series. When looking at it, the LA Kings have just been far too inconsistent. They are very good in terms of 5-on-5 play. I believe they're third at like 55%, but they just lack the finishing talent, in my opinion. When looking at these 2 teams, it's a tale of 2 different teams. Canucks have a shit ton of elite finishers. They have 27 goals above expected on the season, which is second in the entire NHL, only behind the Detroit Red Wings, I believe. And when looking at the Los Angeles Kings, they're at negative 23 goals above expected, which is 30th in the entire NHL, only behind the Chicago Blackhawks and the San Jose Sharks. So although you maybe could say that's luck, it's just they're lucky for the most part. I think 60 games in, that more so. There is definitely some luck associated with that, but that shows me more that Canucks have elite finishers for the most part, and the LA Kings do not. LA Kings, besides Adrian Kempe, really not a ton of goal scorers on that team. So I just look at it, although the Canucks might not be the best team off the rush, I think once they establish it in their own zone, they are just so lethal at keeping possession, and just their Corsi is very good despite not having that amazing goal share. So I think they can definitely expose David Riddick or Cam Talbot in net. When looking at it, Cam Talbot, Dave Riddick versus Demko, it's probably the biggest talent gap in net of this entire first round. So I think when you consider what the Canucks have looked like this season, as well as having definitely a better top pair on defense, probably a better overall defense core, I think the Vancouver Canucks would be able to take care of business pretty easily. Then we have the Oilers versus the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, last year, this was a really good series, really heated series, went 6 games. Vegas Golden Knights clearly went on to go win the Stanley Cup, so they won that series. I have the Edmonton Oilers in 7 games. I don't think that this Vegas Golden Knights team is as good as the team last year, which you expect after they win the goddamn Stanley Cup. But when looking at this team, they won their first 7 or 8 games and have kind of been about a 500 team ever since then. Yes, Eichel, Stone have been out the last couple weeks, but just overall, I'm not getting the same vibes from this Vegas Golden Knights team. And I think this Oilers team is a lot more balanced. They're not this power play merchant team anymore. They're actually first in the entire NHL in expected goals per 60 at 5-on-5. Compare that to 7th last year, where they were kind of power play merchants, and the power play isn't even as good as it was last year. I mean, which is not a good thing, but they're not relying on the power play this year is kind of what I'm trying to say. And ever since their horrible start, when they got just the worst goaltending of all time, they've probably been the best team in the entire NHL. I don't think that's an exaggeration to say, considering how good they've been playing, around 70%, 75% points percentage since then. So I think when looking at it, they're a more balanced team. They actually have some depth scoring to a degree. Getting Corey Perry was big, as well as one of the best pairs in the entire NHL, and Bouchard and Ekholm. I think they can get it done. They've been very good at 5-on-5, much better than the Vegas Golden Knights. So I don't think that they'll be like a guy like Draisaitl will go invisible for 4 or 5 games like he did. I think he had 2 points in final 4 games when they lost 3 out of those 4. So I think they can actually get it done this season, as long as Stuart Skinner can not directly lose them any one game, as long as he can just play okay. I think just overall the Edmonton Oilers will be able to dominate possession for the most part and get behind Adin Hill. I think it's possible. I'm not saying that it's gonna. It's a lock, but I see people writing them off, just saying it's gonna happen again. Oh, they're gonna get absolutely caved in. I don't see it happening. I think Vegas has taken a step back. Next up, second round, Rangers versus Hurricanes. I have the Hurricanes in 7 games. When talking about this, what I talked about before with the 2 teams, Rangers really bad at 5-on-5, kind of relying on the special teams. Canes dominant at 5-on-5. I think they obviously have more talent than the Detroit Red Wings, so I think they will be able to expose them. You look at it, the 5-on-5 percentages, 65% expected goals percentage versus 49. They really only have one effective line for the most part. Kreider and Mika has not been that good for the Rangers this year. So as long as the Carolina Hurricanes can focus in on the Panarin, Lafreniere, Trocheck line, you throw Martinook, Stahl, and Jarvis on that line, I think you can shut them down, as well as having Aho run loose, Aho, Svechnikov, Teravainen. So when looking at it, I think that they're just going to be able to pelt Igor with 35, 40 shots a game, while the Rangers kind of struggle unless they're on the power play. And the Hurricanes get it done after, did they lose to them? No, they didn't lose to them 2 years ago. They get them done. They get it done. They get it done. These 2 teams have kind of been the 2 elites of the Metro Division the past 3 seasons for the most part. I think the Hurricanes get the better of them. The other Eastern semifinal, Leafs versus Panthers. I got the Panthers in 6 games, although I do think the Leafs are a tougher team. Based on what we saw last year, even though every game was close, I think the Panthers will have the Leafs number for the most part. Paul Maurice kind of outcoached the shit out of Sheldon Keefe in last year's series. In that, I do lean Bobrovsky, and I do think that the top 2 lines of the Florida Panthers will be able to outscore the 3 lines of the Leafs. The Panthers lines are just absolutely insane. They're both ranked top 5 in the entire NHL in goals percentage this year, as well as them having solid depth with Anton Lundell, Eetu Luostarinen. I think they just are the more complete team than the Toronto Maple Leafs, while also having an advantage in net. Moving on to Jets versus Stars. I have the Stars in 7 games. They're both pretty comparable. Both run out 3 very solid forward lines, a decent defense core, as well as being pretty set in net. I think the Dallas Stars do have more forward talent overall. I think a key matchup of this series would be Heiskanen and Harley versus the first line of the Winnipeg Jets of Kyle Connor, Scheifele, and Velarde. That might be where the matchup lies. Best defense pair versus the Winnipeg Jets, clear best line. I do think I would lean the Dallas Stars second and third line over the Winnipeg Jets. So I think they'd be able to win that matchup. So as long as Heiskanen and Harley, who they haven't played a ton together. They've only played 125 minutes, but they've pretty easily been like the best pair in all of hockey this season. So I think Dallas can get it done over the Winnipeg Jets. And their 2 games this year, pretty balanced for the most part. Dallas won both 2-0 and a 3-2 win. It wasn't runaway. Actually, the Jets outshot them by a couple shots in each game. But I'm going with the Dallas Stars in that series. Then we got the Canucks versus the Oilers. Canucks versus Oilers. This would be absolute mayhem. I'm going to go with the Oilers in 6 games. I think they are the more experienced team, obviously. It would be interesting to see how the Canucks, obviously their top pair could keep up, but their other 2 pairs against the high pace of the Oilers offense, that would be very interesting to see if a Myers, a Zadorov, an Ian Cole would be able to keep up with that. And when looking at the bottom 6s, it's about equal, but I think I would slightly lean the Edmonton Oilers. This series would probably come down to, can you get a goal a game from your bottom 6? If you could do that on a consistent basis every single game, you probably win the goddamn series. I do lean Demko over Skinner, but I do think Edmonton would dominate possession for the most part and would kind of make up for that. Demko would probably see more high danger chances off the rush compared to a Skinner. Just keep everything in front of him. So when looking at it, although the Canucks are 3-0 against the Edmonton Oilers, that wasn't the first month of the season when the Edmonton Oilers absolutely sucked. They blew them out 18-6 combined score. So I kind of throw that out, no offense, just because everybody was beating the shit out of the Oilers. So I got the Oilers winning in Six games? Yeah, 6 games. Next up, we got the Florida Panthers versus the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm going with the Florida Panthers. I think the Carolina Hurricanes would kind of meet their match. Rangers, high octane, a lot of talent, dominant special teams. Not very good 5-on-5. You look at the Florida Panthers, they are good 5-on-5. They are an absolute wagon 5-on-5. They're one of the best 5-on-5 teams in the entire NHL. They have that high-end talent that can play both ways compared to a Rangers where they're more just offensive guys. So I think the Florida Panthers would be able to about be even with the Carolina Hurricanes. We saw it last year. Their series were absolutely bangers. 2 OT series. The other one, Matthew Tkachuk, game-winning goal with like 5 seconds left. This was a sweep last year, but it would be closer. I'd go with the Florida Panthers in 7 games, but I do think they just have too much top-end talent, as well as Bobrovsky over Kochetkov. You could win a couple rounds with Kochetkov. Can you win a Stanley Cup with him? I'm not too sure, so I'm going with the Florida Panthers in 7 games. Oilers versus Stars. Oilers versus Stars. This is where the Oilers' run sadly ends. I don't have the Oilers winning the Stanley Cup like I did at the end of last season. I have the Stars. I think the depth would just be too much for the Edmonton Oilers. They can definitely keep up with the Vancouver Canucks. It's more of a top 6, but Dallas is, I've said the word a lot in this video, an onslaught. It would just be an absolute onslaught. You just throw Harley and Heiskanen on that McDavid line. I think you could potentially slow it down. You're not going to stop it, but you could slow it down. I don't really see any way that Edmonton's like Ceci and Nurse can possibly keep up with some of Edmonton's lines, as well as in net. Jake Ottinger, I would take over Stuart Skinner. So I got the Dallas Stars winning in 6 games, let's say. Lastly, Florida Panthers versus the Dallas Stars. I think these probably are the 2 best teams in hockey. I can't even, like, they're both built so well. Not really any flaws on this team, on either team. But I'm going to go with the Dallas Stars in 6 games. I do think Ekblad and Forsling would be able to hold their own against some of the Dallas line combinations. Would Nico Mikkola and Brandon Montour be able to? Not too sure. Dallas Stars would definitely need Esa Lindell and Yanni Hakanpää to play the best hockey of their career. But I would slightly lean the Dallas Stars to win the Stanley Cup in this scenario. I can't really. They're about as equal as it gets. It's just a personal opinion in my opinion. I would go Dallas Stars in 6 games. I would go with Miro Heiskanen as Conn Smythe winner. I kept on mentioning Harley and Heiskanen, how they're going to have to dominate during this potential Cup run. I think he's going to play 26 to 27 minutes a night and just dominate, B point per game, and get it done. This was a long-ass video. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about the video? I got Stars winning the Stanley Cup. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? I got to go drink some water. I'm tired. I'll be seeing you in the next one.